entertainment.
They call it the greatest show on earth. I think it has the highest revenue for marketing and advertising within the breaks that any event has in the world on a time basis, and it's an incredible spectacle. Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Superprime UK with your Superprime valuation specialist, me, Rob Cohen.
And myself, James Wild.
Welcome back everyone. Hope you've all had a good week and ready to go again with all of the latest property and finance news, intel and data as we provide you with every week on the show. So what do you got, James, and welcome back.
Thanks very much, Rob. Sorry to miss last week. Straight back into things, the data this week. Agents across London struggling for stock, only 232 new instructions this week. However, sales have been very robust, Rob, 145 this week. So despite the constrained stock levels, the sold numbers are still maintaining that sort of 130 to 150 average.
Yeah, good start to the year 2022. We're looking for positivity, and currently we are seeing that in the property market. It is moving, and good signs.
That's it. And just in terms of the pipeline, we've got a further 181 under offer properties, so it looks fairly strong for the next week or two in terms of that pipeline. And despite the constrained sales numbers, hopefully the sales will not diminish too much, and we'll be able to keep that average of 130 150 weekly sales there.
Yep, all good, James.
Just in terms of the key economic indicators, we've got sort of unemployment quite steady at 4.1%, which I think is good for the economy. However, the inflation figures, which are due out later today, these are anticipated to be about 5.4 to 5.5%, whilst the Bank of England has been forced to increase its forecast for peak inflation yet again, which is likely to be in the region of 7.25% for inflation, which they're predicting to top out in around April 2022, up from the previous forecast of 6.5%. So I mean, inflation there, Rob, not ideal. The government's trying to get that under control with a series of interest rate rises in the last few months. However, in terms of GDP, that's more positive news in terms of some of the forecasts.
Yeah, I think some really strong economic data coming out. UK performing at the very top of the G7 countries, the fastest growth period since World War II. So I think, yes, strong inflationary pressures that we're facing, but really good employment data figures and really good GDP figures. And again, another reason to be hopeful for 2022 as the economy drives forward, which is what we want for everyone.
That's it. And just in terms of, like you say, Rob, the inflationary pressures, that sort of fares across the TfL network are due to rise on Monday by around an average of about 4.85%, and it sort of depends on which specific service you're relating to there. It's the largest increase we've seen in 10 years, Rob, since 2012, although these price rises, they are in line with what inflation we've seen so far. It does come in the same week that fuel prices have also hit record highs, with petrol, an average litre of petrol now averaging in excess of 148 pence per litre. So those are some of the inflationary pressures we've seen in the economy, Rob. And you know, it's sort of the fuel prices there, which again go hand in hand with the sort of the energy costs in terms of everyone heating their home as well.
I think such an interesting concept and triangle of information there. So you've got TfL putting prices up, but TfL usage for the last few years has been much lower than previous years, obviously because of working from home and the pandemic. Thus, the need and requirement to increase costs for customers to compensate for less travellers. So that whole analogy makes sense and is very logical. You've got less people using the underground, thus you need to increase your fees to cover their running costs. That makes sense. With the fuel, that's even more interesting because more people are working from home, more people are maybe doing car journeys because they're not using the trains or the underground to go to work. And so that one's a really interesting one to follow because there could be a real growth there for the fuel retailers, and that pricing is really going to go towards them getting very highly profitable figures and returns in that sector because of the fact that people are working from home and maybe doing more shorter trips. I'd like to see the data behind that.
Yeah, it comes in a week where obviously Shell announced last week record profits and things, which wasn't particularly popular for the consumers to see. However, it maybe opens up, Rob, in terms of the EV charging, electric vehicles, further calls for that, and maybe consumers looking at that with a stronger possibility of moving into that space. Just moving on, a report from City Hall this week has confirmed what they're calling a bit of a boomerang effect is well underway, with thousands of people who left London for the suburbs and the shires migrating back to the capital, with the particular profile here being the young professionals who more in their masses quit the capital at the time of the first lockdown in March 2020, and that spring time as they lost their jobs or went on furlough. And the report's analysed by, like I said, by City Hall. They've been analysing data from GP registers and also the rental sector. So there has been a migration back to London, Rob, because at one point we were a little bit concerned about the diminishing population in London, which we hadn't seen in over 30 years. So that is now on an uptick again, which I think is positive and also serves the job market as well.
Yeah, we need to track that data. We need to keep following that. I think that's a really interesting one. For me, it's not surprising. It's what I would expect. London is one of the, if not the very best capital cities that there are in the world. And if you're a young professional, why would you not want to take advantage of everything that London offers in terms of its diversification, its hospitality? It's an incredible city, and that makes sense to me.
Yeah, and we focused on the last few weeks in terms of sales of trophy assets, and this week we've had a sale of the week, Rob. Hamilton Terrace in the St John's Wood, sale at 32 million, which equates to about £2,600 per square foot. It was a record-breaking sale in that area. Includes the main house, two mews houses at the rear, includes leisure facilities, it's a detached house, and also ticks a lot of boxes in terms of ancillary accommodation, staff accommodation. So again, that 32 million, £2,600 per square foot.
I think in the area, along with Avenue Road, Hamilton Terrace has always been considered as one of the top most prestigious roads within that specific prime, super prime location, and no surprise to me that you're seeing a property trade in that road for that kind of money.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. And just whilst we're on this sector, mortgage rates. So Nationwide early this month has had a new mortgage product aimed at first-time buyers, which now offers 5.5 times the salary of those mortgage applicants with just a 5% deposit, lowering its previous limit of a 10% deposit. The mortgage product is going to it's going to reach more people in terms of those which are now to meet that affordability criteria, although borrowers must fix their mortgages for 5 or 10 years, which obviously is a slightly more punitive measure of that mortgage offering.
Mortgage rates and the affordability and amount of money people can borrow is going to be the interesting one for 2022, with the inflationary costs we've already discussed. So higher fuel and energy means that people's disposable income will come down a bit. Thus, one of the ways to get around that is to put up the multiplier of what people can borrow against their wages, especially when it's joint. So that's one mechanism, and Nationwide have obviously bought that product and looked at that. The other area is that there's a lot of games in the market at the moment with the lenders playing around with their interest rates, just understanding what the appetite is out there and specifically focusing on the interest rate increases and now how that's going to be affecting the market. So I think another space for us to watch this year and track very closely, because I think you're going to see some variables, some changes and some dynamics from the lenders and the banks this year to be competitive and also to manage affordability in an inflationary market. So I think it's going to be really interesting how that plays out this year.
Yeah, I think lenders are really pushing those salary multipliers, as well as sort of tweaking products by offering in terms of the duration of a loan. We're up at sort of 35, 40 years now for some of those first-time buyers. There's, staggering mortgage terms, but just to facilitate more sort of mortgage lending whilst there's, affordability pressures on that market. Just in terms of some other sort of rates news there, Halifax and Lloyds have both launched 10-year deals for homeowners as they look to sort of lock in a certain monthly interest rates that you'll be paying. So Halifax is offering a 10-year fixed deal at 1.68 for home buyers with a 40% deposit. So quite a hefty deposit needed there, and they might be tweaking that deal just depending on any sort of further interest rate rises. Lloyds have got a 1.66% 10-year fixed deal. However, that is only available for those refinancing rather than for purchases. Again, Rob, I think with those deals, I think the early repayment penalties is probably going to be something that's the a real sort of driver for their any clawback on those deals. As a 10-year fix is it's an awful long time to have that sort of term certain in a house. It has to be sort of your sort of real family home or your sort of forever home, if you like.
Big commitment. Any other news this week, or is that?
Well, just in terms of this week, obviously we had the Super Bowl this week. I don't know if you stayed up to watch it, Rob.
Did, yes.
Yeah. So I also had the LA Rams win the Super Bowl over the Cincinnati Bengals. I think it was 20 versus 23. I think they won, Rob.
Yeah. So anyone that watches the Super Bowl every year, you do pay the price for the rest of the week because staying up all night watching that does set you back for the rest of the week. So great experience and a great event. Just a challenging time of the morning, I'd say.
And obviously we had sort of Tom Brady retiring this year from the sports. He's been iconic for the last sort of 20 years or so.
Yeah, I mean, without doubt, the greatest of all time, and his Bucks team that won last year, owned by the Glaziers, Manchester United's current owners, lost and didn't retain the Super Bowl. This year it was the Rams against the Bengals, and the Rams, owned by Stan Kroenke, in their new $5 billion stadium, who is the current owner of my team, Arsenal, saw a great reward for his financial investment in that franchise. And in the hometown of LA, they were victorious, and a great achievement for him and the team. Let's hope that Kroenke can do the same with Arsenal, with the Premier League, and maybe one day the Champions League.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an avid watcher of the Super Bowl, but it's quite the spectacle in terms of everything's commercialised, everything from the pre-match to the half-time entertainment.
They call it the greatest show on earth. I think it has the highest revenue for marketing and advertising within the breaks that any event has in the world on a time basis, and it's an incredible spectacle, and Americans do things and do them well when it comes to show business, sports and entertainment, and it's a great event, maybe maybe next year look to go to that one.
Yeah, and just in terms of the Premier League, Rob, does no one want to get fourth place? Manchester United, Spurs both stuttering. I don't know, sort of West Ham currently occupying that fourth spot. I don't know if Arsenal are going to leapfrog them. Any predictions who's going to class that final spot?
I think that one's a revolving door, and I think it's going to be very much whoever's the luckiest team to be sitting in that position when the door closes at the end of the season. I don't think there's any standouts there.
Yeah, I think West Ham's lack of squad depth could be their downfall, maybe.
Maybe. We'll see. Brilliant. Great show as always. Great data, great intel. Great having your support. The socials have been going brilliantly this year. Great interaction and engagement. Loving every minute of it. And we'll be here this time next week to share with you all the latest property, finance, intel, data and news as we see it week in, week out. Thanks once again for joining, and thanks for everyone supporting Super Prime UK. Have a great week and see you all soon. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Rob.
Thanks, James.
Thanks, everyone.